Hello and welcome back, everyone, to Freelancer on Rocket Rabbit Commentaries. In this episode, we are being engaged by a bunch of Xenos after going through a warp gate. We are on our way back to Manhattan, actually. We got a pit stop to make before we get to Manhattan in order to upgrade our weapons one more time. But, yeah, we are on our way back to Manhattan to attempt to continue on with the story. Junie has called us back from the last episode.
Kaboom!
You'll notice that these guys are only like level 1 and 2 fighters. Yeah, Manhattan is not the place that you want to try and do a lot of your free play grinding once you actually have access to the gate codes. I'm not entirely sure if it's Colorado or California that you should be doing the farming in, to be perfectly honest. But I chose to do Colorado because, well, it was, you know, relatively easy for us to get back there.
Wild Pokemon encounters.
Not really wild Pokemon, to be perfectly honest, but, you know. Ooh, this guy's level 3.
Level 3 Xenos drops more experience than level 2 Xenos.
No, it does not. I think it has a higher chance of dropping weapons, which would, you know, we would be able to sell for stuff, but you'll notice that most of the time, whilst we're dealing with these while we're dealing with these collection of random encounters, they're not actually dropping all that much stuff for us.
The level metric is just for show.
No, it is not just for show. They are more powerful than level 2 Xenos would be, but they aren't, you know, they aren't worth more experience. Because that's not how this game actually defines what your levels are.
So, would you recommend going to areas where you could get jumped by low-level enemies if the experience is the same?
Ooh. To be perfectly honest, I actually recommend flying around areas that are about your level when it comes to doing free play grinding. The issue with that is towards the mid game, it gets very difficult to actually do that. You end up flying around in areas that are slightly above, either slightly below or significantly below your level, simply because it is simply because you get locked out of specific areas due to story events. So I'm debating on if I want to actually upgrade from the derail into the Scorpion 2 that I got, or if I'm going to just replace the derail with the Stunpulse, because I'm specifically going to go get my next weapon before we actually go to Manhattan. And yeah, we're going to Pittsburgh to go get it, because Pittsburgh actually has civilian Liberty weapons for us to go get. Oddly enough, it took me a while to actually find where this weapon that I'm looking for is being sold, and it's partially because that whilst we're actually doing the story missions, we don't actually use a lot of the spaceports that Liberty has. We use Pittsburgh and we use Manhattan, but we don't actually use any of the battleships until about this point, and we also don't actually use a good portion of the military stations either.
Well, it's that. We're passing by ports and military stations back and forth throughout the game, but only after we get the abilities to use them. Only then can we actually, like, make them useful.
No, I'm not complaining about their usability. I'm complaining about a good system in theory that ends up being annoying on replay playthroughs. When you dock with a battleship or spaceport, they will actually give detailed they will have details on what their trade routes and their trade routes and goods are that they're selling and buying at these locations are when you actually go after you visited them. So if you're looking for specific things, it's actually important to dock at a good portion of the bases and battleships that you come across. But during the story, we don't actually end up doing that often. So I think
versus,
in total there's only like 15 places that we end up actually stopping by during the story, and like 3 of them get destroyed. So
they do that thing where dramatically, oh no, the shop vendor's town was under attack by space bandits.
not
we
space
can't
bandits.
use the shop
thankfully.
anymore.
We never have to defend an installation against space bandits. Although we have to defend ourselves against space bandits quite a bit.
All these displaced townspeople, you can find them at the refugee camp, where all of their wares and their ability to sell and buy are still intact.
No, when people die in Freelancer, they remain killed.
The purple diamond is this way.
Yeah, I don't want to go to Fort Bush. I'm trying to go the other way. I want to go to Planet Pittsburgh.
You gotta fly through the gate at the right angle.
Yeah, well, not necessarily the right angle, but the right side. Oh, look, some scrap metal that we can sell. Haha.
Let us check our wares while we fly.
So what's new in the world of Cloud as we return to Planet Pittsburgh?
Oh, just flying high and feeling fine.
I don't think I've actually ever seen all of Top Gun.
It's well, Top Gun 1 looks like it came from a different era than the streaming services that are promoting it right now.
Well, it did, because, Top Gun is, what, 81?
Yeah, dude, the Cold War wasn't even over when this movie was going on. That was part of the suspense and the intrigue. Is oh, geez, are these fighter pilots about to get the U.S. involved in an actual, like, guns and battles war with Russia?
Look at all the smoke the mining operation produces, Mr. Cloud.
Social commentary.
Well, it's Pittsburgh. It's supposed to be smoggy.
This whole field is lit up by a single strobe effect light bulb.
I mean, it is definitely a single light source, but I don't think it's a light bulb. Ack! The weapon that we're after. It's not here!
It makes this whole... The lighting makes this whole area feel a lot smaller than it actually is.
Let's see. So, why else are we here?
Selling off the stuff we don't need.
Okay, and then equipping the Scorpion. Yay. Now we have to actually repair
I feel like your pockets are too fat. You have been looting quite a bit. Losing a little
terrible thing is our
here.
pockets aren't actually all that fat because we've not actually been getting all that much stuff from the loot that we've been having. So
that old problem of I want to keep looting, but my inventory's full.
Yeah. All right. So, at this point, I specifically thought that the weapon that I was looking for was actually at Planet Pittsburgh. Apparently, it's actually over at Fort Bush. So yeah, I got lost.
A frequent problem in Freelancer?
No, actually, it's not. Like if I had bothered to dock at Fort Bush during our free play sessions, I would have known to not go to a Planet Pittsburgh for this, but I forgot to do that. So. Trade lane transports, can we hitch a ride with your warp, please?
Come on, let's all ride together. Isn't that nice? We're traveling at the same velocity. It looks like nobody's moving anywhere. Trade interrupted. Battle commence.
All right, now that all of those are defeated again, back to going. We return to our projected target of going to Fort Bush.
Nice little diversion there.
They gave us some more javelin missiles. Haha.
I reckon it would be just a touch annoying if your aim was to just keep traveling all the way, but you keep getting stopped by these random enemy encounters.
I think you're only allowed to get interrupted on a trade lane exactly once per trade lane. I'm not entirely sure about that, but I think that's how that goes. Yeah, that's the Baltimore shipyard that we need to go to.
Sounds like a good failsafe against disjointed game flow.
The shipyards are honestly relatively interesting because you can tell that they actually do, build large cruisers from these shipyards, simply due to the construction that you see on the outside, even if you don't actually ever get to see them building ships actively.
The game assures you they're building big ships over here. We call this the big shipbuilding dimension.
Alright, we sell the Starbeam and we purchase the Stunpulse. Yay! So, I'll be using this weapon for the rest of the game. The advanced Stunpulse, as annotation Gerdat is attempting to explain here, does almost no hull damage, but in exchange does about 8 billion points of shield damage. So, if you actually manage to get a Stunpulse and a hole-piercing weapon, you have the ability to very quickly delete targets. That said, I will never actually have a hole-piercing weapon, because the hole-piercing weapons are more or less just missile launchers. There are a couple of lasers in the game that specifically deal hull damage over shield damage, and you're supposed to pair those with the stun pulses and the debilitators. But I've never had the ability to actually go farm them, so I straight up do not know where I'm supposed to go for them. The lava blade specifically is a weapon that does more hull damage than shield damage, but with its downsides of fire rate and energy cost, I never actually liked running the lava blade. So,
feel like your ship is just made of textures without hitboxes.
Sometimes.
Come and see the game developer dimension, where we'll fix all of that. You want to see a ship crash like it's supposed to? Have two objects careen into each other like tin cans blasted out of potato guns. You'll see the sparks fly. Versus Freelancer, content to believe you're driving a ghost about to get eaten by a really big ship.
It doesn't actually do that all that often, for the record, and this is one of the few instances where, it's because we were in a trade lane that we saw that happen. Anyway, in the next episode, we'll finally continue on with the Freelancer story. Be safe, everybody.